While progressing in life, at times we feel stuck due to the lack of knowledge of how to manage our time well. Deciding how to prioritize the different facets of daily self-management gets hectic, whether it's for school students, university students, or working people. The lack of motivation, a great amount of workload, and the expectations of the academic front in college or at one's workplace is draining for an individual. Under such circumstances, a helping hand can instruct and support us in setting the right direction for our goals. At MentorMitr, we engage with individuals wherever they are in their journey of career development and help them learn life skills to manage complex situations while enhancing their potential and performance to optimum. Our involvement helps individuals to set the right goals and create options by following an objective process, thereby enabling them to define and manage their priorities. We help them generate self-awareness and teach them how to prioritize their time effectively. We also enhance their emotional quotient with techniques like mind mapping and dealing with success and failure to reinforce their goals and processes, while also grooming them with soft skills that are necessary for the competitive selection process, thus making them confident and prepared for success. While progressing in life, at times we feel stuck due to the lack of knowledge of how to manage our time well. Deciding how to prioritize the different facets of daily self-management gets hectic, whether it's for school students, university students, or working people. The lack of motivation, a great amount of workload, and the expectations of the academic front in college or at one's workplace is draining for an individual. Under such circumstances, a helping hand can instruct and support us in setting the right direction for our goals. At MentorMitri, we engage with individuals wherever they are in their journey of career development and help them learn life skills to manage complex situations while enhancing their potential and performance to optimum. Our involvement helps individuals to set the right goals and create options by following an objective process, thereby enabling them to define and manage their priorities. We help them generate self-awareness and teach them how to prioritize their time effectively. We also enhance their emotional quotient with techniques like mind mapping and dealing with success and failure to reinforce their goals and processes, while also grooming them with soft skills that are necessary for the competitive selection process, thus making them confident and prepared for success.
Good evening, everyone. So I will be taking you guys through the MentorMitr application. The first thing is the questionnaire. So we before you come to a counseling session with the mentor, there are specific screens, specific templates which you have to fill to let the mentor know what your goals and everything. So questionnaire is a template where we ask you some 20 to 25 questions to know about yourself. And so tracks and options where you get to choose the tracks which are present, and This is mentor know in which tracks you're interested. Mentor will guide you through which tracks are important and which might work out for you based on your interests. So after submitting some options, there is a sports track. So if you are interested in sports, you will be able to answer this question. You can answer about your favorite sports. What are your in the favorite sports? There are 5 questions designed to know about your sports. And after the sports track, there is a college track. This is to know where you wanted to join, like up a specific. What is the name of the college you wanted to join? What is the syllabus the college needs, and the selection criteria for the college, and what do you need to achieve the required stuff, and what is the thing you need to improve. So after that, there are prior. So this is to let the mentor know what your priorities are. You could have different types of priorities. We have 4 different. So you could click on here and you could enter your priorities. Let's say you have a priority to get a good score. So and let's say it's an important priority and then urgent priority. So there are types of priorities. So there are 4 different types: important and not urgent, important, urgent, not important, non-urgent. So you could select any of them based on your requirement, and then you could add it. So here will be all your previously entered priorities. This is to let the mentor know what your priorities and you go to the counseling session. So after the priorities, there are goals and affirmations. So this is where you affirmation goal, and all of your goals are entered here, and all of your affirmations are entered. You could add your activities. So activities are basically what you do in the what you do in your regular exercise, sports, movies. You could add your own, define your own activities which you do in a day, and then in the weekly timetable, what you do is you should define how your weeks looks like. So before going to the counseling session, the mentor will want to know how your week looks like. So let's say on Monday, as you see here, I have 3 samples. So is to add back from. So you add that school. The whole week you'll be able to do how week like how each day of the week. So these are the templates which you will be filling before going into the counseling session. And then once you fill all these templates, you are ready to go to the counseling session for a mentor. For a mentor. So you can click on here and you can schedule a session with the mentor. So there are different types of sessions, and you could select any one of those sessions. You have 1 hour counseling session, short discussions and everything. So you could select one of those sessions and you could fill the date, like the date and timing of your sessions. Let's say I want a session tomorrow. I select the date. You see the time slots which are available. You can select the time slots. You can enter your name. You can enter your email, and you enter here and you can confirm your meeting. So once your meeting is confirmed, the MentorMitr team will get back to you on mail. So that's how you session. So after you schedule a session, once after the session, the mentor, if you have any feedback about the mentor, about the session, you could give us feedback and we could improve on that. And after the session, what you'll do is you'll be entering, you will be giving the app your data based on which we'll be getting reports. We'll be assessing your performance and everything. So you could add your own subjects. Like if you're a school student or a college student, you have different courses. So you could enter your course name and you could enter your target in that course. Let's say you want to get 95%, and you could set your own targets in those subjects. And time tracker, you'll be letting us know what you're doing each day. So let's say on at 20 right now, I am giving a MentorMitr presentation. So you could define that in your activity and then come here and select that from your activity. Okay, so you'll be giving us all this data, and once we have all this data each week based on what you're doing, we'll be giving you the reports on your email. So these are the outputs which you'll be getting from the mentors. So when you go to a mentor after the question, you're looking at your time. So let's say you are spending 10 hours on, so how much time you should be spending on different activities in each week. So let's say the mentor wanted to spend your week like this. So you'll have an idea of how to distribute your time. So this is a bar graph showing that. And after the session, the mentor will be giving you suggestions, like the summary of the session. What are the suggestions you should be following and stuff. And in the grade section, you can enter your scores on each in each subject. Let's say in maths, I had an exam today, and I got 90 out of 100. You could have a record of that, and when you go to the mentor again, he'll be having a record of that. And we have a depiction of how you're performing in each subject. So you can see how the we'll have a bar graph so that you can see how your percentages are going. So these are especially for a working professional. There are the different. So the mentor will be able to fill a questionnaire where he'll tell us about his or her work life and everything related to work and everything. So similarly, his or her own priorities and goals and affirmations, and a weekly timetable. Let's say a working professional has go to work and family time and stuff. So he'll be able to have his own weekly timetable defined for himself. So
Guys, I'm on.
remaining everything would be the same for the school student and a working professional.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening, sir. So we'll just start in 2 minutes.
Sure. Please use the second presentation that I sent you, not the first one.
Before we begin, I would like to go over the steps to avail the e-certificate. You are required to attend the full webinar. Once you see the thank you displayed on the screen, there will appear a link to the Google attendance form in the chat box. Click to mark your attendance and get the feedback form emailed. Fill the questionnaire that you receive on your mail for the details. Follow our page on Instagram and Facebook. If the above stated steps are followed, an e-certificate will be automatically mailed to you.
Guys, I am able to see only 4 participants.
I would like to start off with an introduction of MentorMitr. MentorMitr is a mentoring organization. Our aim is to guide individuals wherever they are in their journey or career development and help them learn life skills to manage complex situations while enhancing their academic performance to optimal. Our involvement helps students to set the right goals and enables them to define and manage their priorities as well as enhance their EQ. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on parenting from perspectives of parents and children. This session will be led by established professional Mr. Sanjay Lakhotia, Ms. Mahin Faisal, and Ms. Shrishti Asthana. Please feel free to leave your questions in the chat box and we will try to answer them. Our first speaker for the evening is Mr. Sanjay Lakhotia. Mr. Sanjay is a HR expert who has worked in internal HR with companies like Crompton Greaves and Godrej Soaps, and then worked with Hewitt Associates managing multiple businesses in India and Asia Pacific. He used to be the head of the rewards consulting business as well as done a lot of work in business and HR consulting across all areas of HR. I would now like to request Sir to please enlighten our audience.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me on this session. So, parenting is an interesting topic. I have 2 kids who I have had the opportunity or the fortune to bring up. It's very important for everyone when we talk about parenting to understand or have a philosophy around what's your parenting style. And there is a very definitive and very authoritative style, which is from the East and the way we grew up in some extent. And also a Western approach, which is sometimes even very aloof and non-interfering to that extent. And some of us who have, seen both the styles, we are a little bit in the middle and confused about what to do with our children. So what I will do is basically try and look at a little bit of philosophy, something that I learned during my course in HR, how to apply that to managing your relationship with your kids, and some small tips at the end. Okay? So what I want to start on the next slide is basically a Hindu philosophy on parenting. And this is a very important one because when I talk to a lot of parents, I see this confusion in their mind. And the Hindu philosophy on parenting states that your children are from you, but they are not for you. And this is a very important thing to understand when we look at our children. Many a times I hear parents say that children should do what we want them to do, or they should become an engineer because I couldn't become an engineer, or they should do something for me when I grow old. That's something which I would strongly recommend all parents to get out from. Your children are individuals who have their own identity, own purpose, and they are not tied to you as an individual. And it's a very important thing that I learned as part of the learning on the Hindu philosophy, and found it very interesting and useful when I'm dealing with children, not just mine, but a lot of other children that I work with. So that's the first part. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was something that we learned during our course in transactional analysis. And the course talks about ego states. So I'll talk about that on the next slide. So what is said is that there are three ego states that we operate in. One is a parent ego state, one is an adult ego state, and the third is the child ego state. So whenever we are interacting with others, these are the three ego states. Just to understand what these ego states are, parent ego states are behaviors and traits which are learned from observing parents or parental figures. So when we were children, whatever we heard or saw our parents or other parental figures do, we picked up things which we've carried with us throughout. You know? The second is the adult ego state, which talks about behavior traits and feelings which are in direct response to the here and now, what's happening right now. It doesn't have any link to what happened in the past, doesn't have any link to what may happen in the future, but it's about how you respond to the situation in the here and now. And the third is the child ego state, which are all our childhood experiences. So what happened to us as children, how others behaved with us when we were children, is the child ego state that we adopt. So this is a very interesting thing. So if you go to the next slide, it talks about, when two people are interacting at any point in time. So you are the parent, you are interacting with your child, and the child is also operating in the parent ego state. Then the conversation becomes very difficult because both of them are trying to show the other person how to be correct. So if you tell your child, so a typical conversation in a parent-to-parent ego state can be, you should not watch too much television. That comes from one parent. The other parent will say, but you also watch so much television. You should also not watch so much television. That's a parent-to-parent. So people are giving advice, and when both the two people, which is you and your child, both are operating in this parent-to-parent zone, then no communication is possible. You'll continuously face a challenge communicating with your child. So let's take the next slide, which is a conversation when both the people are trying to be in the child state. So many parents, without realizing, tend to be in the child state. And the child state typically is when you start negotiating with your children. So where you would say, oh, I will not give you this if you don't do this. The other person will say, okay, but I will also not do this till you give me this. And this conversation again doesn't go anywhere at all. So when you start behaving like your child or your own childhood behaviors, then it creates a little bit of a problem. Okay. The third slide on this talks about when one person is behaving as a parent and the other is behaving as a child. In that scenario, many a times there are risks around the child playing the victim card all the time, trying to be cute and trying to get the parent to do what they want them to do. So that becomes a really difficult situation to be in. And on the next slide is where you are behaving like a child, but the other person, your child, is actually behaving like a parent. And it can happen a lot of times that you don't even realize, because what the children do is they pick up how your parents talk to you, which means their nani or dadi or dada or nana. And, they then start talking exactly the way they hear them control you. And that forces you to go in your child mode, because that's how you've experienced relationship with them. And these are not very effective ways to manage your relationship with the children. So what is the best way to then, look at any conversation with your children and how to understand your parenting own style, is to move all conversation to adult as much as possible. So this is the most important thing that I learned, and this comes in handy not just when you're handling your children, but also across all your relationships that you manage at work, with your spouse, with anybody else. And you'll find that, in all of these cases, there are examples around children trying to negotiate or trying to, arm twist their parents into doing something, and then parents falling for that trap. But the parents also create that trap for themselves by, giving them the signals that it is right. An adult to adult conversation always will be about, giving them a context, understanding what they are thinking about, and ensuring that you don't give in to unreasonable demand. That's very, very important as part of this. So supposing your child is throwing a tantrum and they're trying to play the victim. And if you move to parent state, this conversation is not going to go anywhere because the child will continuously behave and keep throwing tantrums. So what you do is you then start moving the conversation out of this conflict into look at what the situation is. Why should you not be doing something that you're doing or asking? So start getting into debates and arguments around the futility of doing something or the benefits of not doing it or the benefits of doing something. When you start giving logical, answers to your children and you bring them to the point of logic, they also start seeing everything correctly. And this I found to be the most effective way of handling any communication with your children. So this is one strong advice I would give to everybody, is to be conscious of what ego state you're operating in. And once you are aware of what ego state you're operating in and also the other person, you should try and switch that conversation to adult to adult. And the moment you do that, you'll find that the conflict is gone. You have better understanding of your children. You are able to get them to do things that you want them to do, and life will be happy and peaceful. And in the end, what I wanted to do was talk about a few tips on the next slide, which help me at least, and this is a tip that I give to everybody, around how to manage your children in a more effective manner. One of the biggest things that we keep hearing about is the generation gap. And the generation gap is bound to happen between any parent and any child. So the only way out of that is for both parents and for the children to have empathy as a very critical skill. Empathy forces you to think about the perspective of the other person. And this I'm not saying only for the parents, but also for the children. Most of the time, both of them are not able to understand each other's positions and why this is being talked about. And most of the time, why is never discussed. It is also about what you need to do, that is under discussion. So the moment you start discussing why, you will go back to that adult stage. And once you start discussing the whys, in a positive manner, you will find that you are able to understand your children better or your parents better. So empathy is a very critical skill that all of us need all around, everywhere. And the more we are spending time on social media, and also this COVID situation has created a problem for us, that we are not able to understand each other's point of view because they are all thrown at us through a medium of a screen and not face to face. Because many times face to face gives you many other clues which are important to understand. Right? The other very critical thing is to be a role model for your children. So the children learn from you, and whatever you do is what they will follow. So very simple thing, if you don't want your children to spend time with electronic devices, the first thing you will have to do is stop doing that yourself. So if we are going to continuously work on our phones, work on our laptops, watch television, our children will do exactly the same. And then asking them to do something different is not going to work at all. So we have to ensure, if we are using abusive language, we cannot expect our children to do anything better than that. If we are having certain habits, they will follow those habits and find them to be okay. Or they can negotiate them, saying, if you do it, I can do it too. So that's a very important thing, is whatever you want your children to do, you have to be a role model. My very simple rule always is no negotiations with children. So I do not like this idea of saying, if you do this, I will do this for you. That's very, very important that we don't negotiate with our children, because the more you negotiate, you are creating opportunity for them to negotiate with you as well. So they will push you in situations where they will not do things that you want them to do till they get something out of you. So this is something you should ensure you don't get your children into the habit of. The other very important thing is your parenting style needs to be flexible and has to change from time to time. When children are too young, you can be a little authoritative. But that too doesn't help. Just being negative or saying no to everything is not going to help at all. So you will have to also find them doing the right things and giving them positive strokes when they do the right things. But as they grow older, their needs change. They want to be more independent. They don't want so much intrusion. You have to start getting a little aloof and moving away from intervention into their life as much as you would want it to be. So it's very important that as your children are growing, your parenting style with them has to also change. And especially becomes difficult when you have children of two different age groups, where one needs authoritative parenting, but the other needs, fairly flexible approach of parenting. So you have to then play this balance very well. The other thing very important is communication between you and your children. Please keep that line of communication open. Today, the biggest challenge of living in nuclear families is that children don't have anybody to talk to or take their problems to. And that creates huge number of issues. We have so many cases of depression in children that come out of the fact that parents are not able to spend that time. So be available whenever they need you, whenever they have a requirement because of exams, they are feeling stressed out, you should be with them. To go out on holidays, sit with them every day, read books with them, watch movies with them, whatever, play with them, but be with them whenever they need you so that your communication channels are open with the children. So that's about, from my side, some of the key parenting tips which have helped me, and I thought I'll share with all of you today. So thank you, and I'll take questions at the end.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views, valuable advice, and insights with us on the subject. Our friends listening are surely feeling more informed about the subject and how they can change their approach towards various things. Our second speaker for the evening is Miss Maheen Faisal. Maheen is an experienced and seasoned orator with ample knowledge of the ins and outs of the debating world. She has a knack for proving her point, along with a happy and cheerful personality. She has always been fascinated with the topics of international relations as well as foreign policies, which secured her a position in the Global Youth Forum. She's been involved energetically in MUN conferences and debates for over 6 years now, having participated in more than 100 debates, be it on a national or an international level. Having worked with several non-profit organizations like Muskan, DCWA, and Prati Sandhi, she believes today's youth have the power to bring the necessary changes in the society, and with this, she aims to raise her voice on issues she is deeply passionate about. Now, I would request Miss Maheen to please enlighten our audience.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Maheen Faisal, and I'm currently a third year student in Delhi University, India. And I'm super, super glad to be here. Firstly, I'd like to thank the team of MentorMitr for thinking that I'm capable enough to, talk on such a sensitive issue. And secondly, I heard Sanjay sir talking throughout, and I could deeply, resonate with him. Everything he said made so much sense to me. So thank you so much, sir, for sharing your beautiful insights on the topic. So before beginning, of course, since I'm not a parent, I can't really, understand the struggles of a parent. But I'd like to talk about I'd like to talk on the topic from a point of view of a 20-year-old, right? So there are a few things that I would like to highlight what, today's youth has to go through. And I think the first important thing is, when parents often compare their child with others. I think parents who compare their child with others think that, it will further motivate them to excel in various fields. But, instead, it has a counterproductive effect overall, right? Because see, having a competitive feeling really gives one, helps one to perform better, but it can also be counterproductive in the sense that it lowers the self-esteem of your child. It can of course cause deep set of emotional bruises which are difficult to deal with, and can also result in aggression, resentment, or even antagonism. I feel like the only reason why parents often compare their child with other kids is because they want to invoke a sense of competition within the child, which I think is healthy. But I think there are other ways to go about it. Often comparing your child with others can lead to rivalry among the siblings, which is something I've dealt with on a personal level. And I feel like it also instills a sense of detachment and can further suppress your child's talent. There is a very healthy way to have this conversation and to invoke uh, this sense of competition in your child in a very healthy way, so that your child doesn't react negatively towards it. Because raising a child without having to compare them to other children is something which is highly possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to set benchmarks for them instead of comparing them with other children, right? As a parent, you should encourage their strength and appreciate their accomplishments, which is something I will definitely address later on. You need to teach them that it is absolutely okay to have some weaknesses, and it just makes them a human, right? Because no one is born absolutely perfect and flawless. I think it's okay to have flaws, but as a parent, you should, of course, assist them in all the ways you can. Above everything, I think it's very important to support your child and to show them unconditional love and support. And you will see that they will always want to try their best just to make you proud. Now, you must be wondering, I have talked about how a parent should have a positive approach towards instilling a sense of competition in their child, and that can be done through various ways, which brings me to my second point, which is appreciating and rewarding your child. I think it is very, very important to reward your child and to appreciate them for whatever they have already, achieved or done in the past, because it's very important to celebrate victories. As a parent, of course, you are bound to give your child unconditional love and support, but sometimes your child also feels the need to be rewarded and appreciated. That has to be done explicitly. Also, I believe it is very, very important, ladies and gentlemen, to set realistic expectations for your child. Parents, I believe, should understand the inherent capability and potential of a child and set expectations which align with these capabilities. For example, if I know someone who doesn't really have the inherent capability of being a doctor, let's say, I would never force them to be a doctor, right? I would rather want them to be someone that aligns with their personality and with who they want to be. It is very, very important to help children cope with their weaknesses as well, ladies and gentlemen, because when parents know their kids' weak areas, they must support and help the kids to help them overcome their weaknesses. Because it's not just about a matter of strength, it's also a matter of weakness, right? Though it is not easy, I know, I'm not a parent, but it can be achieved with unconditional love and support. I think many of us forget to appreciate and acknowledge our children when they do something right. See, my point is appreciation helps to build a sense of self confidence. And, whenever you give a pat to your child and you just, say, good job, I think be it for a very trivial task for, tucking up their shoes or socks in the shoe rack, I think it can really work wonders for a child's self esteem, because appreciation gives a child a sense of what is right and what is wrong. The minute you praise your child for something that he has done, he understands that you would like him to do this again, right? In addition, your child realizes that his actions are being observed, And as children crave for love and attention, they will strive to earn your praise again and again. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to my next point about, how important it is to spend quality time with your children and being their friend more than just a parent. I personally think it's very, very important to not just act as a parent, but to be your child's best friend. You should always be the first person that your child comes to whenever he or she is in trouble, or whenever he or she feels the need to talk to someone. Your child should know that he or she can always rely on you and confide in you, and you won't judge them for whatever piece of information they are bringing to you. Whether it's a change of career overnight, or if they failed in a particular test. Now, of course, I'm not saying you should appreciate your child for failing in a test, but there shouldn't be a fear between you and your child that prevents your child from talking to you about failing in a test. He or she should always be honest with you no matter what. Again, so next point is something which even Sanjay sir mentioned, and I would like to talk about it as well, because I really cannot emphasize enough on how important this point is. This point is basically all about being flexible with your parental approach. So I feel like when it comes to parenting, there is no hard and fast rule about how you should do it, but I think being flexible with what you do is something that I believe is very, very important. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think there is something wrong with your parental approach, and if something is not right between you and how you deal with your child, then you should work on it and you should try to change it, because flexibility is the key when it comes to parenting. Of course, I feel like, parenting does require consistency, because children feel a sense of peace when they know what to expect from their parents. However, there are times when your child needs you to be flexible, because I feel like some families benefit from a strict, bedtime routine. But if your child is sick, or whenever he or she has had a bad day, or needs a little, extra attention, I think breaking the routine and adding a little extra snuggle and love is, something which will speak volume to your child. I will share another example, of course. So imagine if a parent is in a really, really bad mood and your child is watching TV. So you sort of lash out at them and you project your anger onto your child. And you shout and say, no more TV, shut it off right away, for example. A few hours later, feeling much calmer, you realize that TV had nothing to do with your child's behavior earlier. So instead of following through, it is okay to go back to your child and say, I was really upset earlier and I wasn't thinking clearly. Instead of, TV, I'd like us to talk about a fight. It's absolutely okay. Because like I said, flexibility is something which is often overlooked while parenting. But like everything else, it's not always easy to decide if we should, stay firm or relax. And I feel like as a parent, there are a few questions you can ask yourself when it comes to your parenting approach. For example, is your current parenting strategy working? If yes, then absolutely great. If it's not working, then change it. Do you feel stressed trying to keep up with this parenting strategy? Are you doing something that doesn't fit with your personality? Or, are you doing something that doesn't fit with your child's personality? So sometimes what happens is even parents try to look how other parents are, parenting. And that is something that has happened a lot of times. So it's absolutely okay, because everyone is different. So try to adapt to your own parenting approach, which also aligns with your child's personality, is what I'm saying. And I think as you go about parenting, there might be times that your parenting intuition tells you that you're being too extreme, or, you're being too harsh. Try to figure out the answers to these questions and change your parenting approach in a way that aligns with your child's personality. Another thing, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to talk about is, how important it is to stay involved in your child's life. Now, this might be a tough one, especially for, working parents, but I feel like it's super, super important to be involved in your child's life and to, know what exactly are they up to. Now, even though I am not a parent, the one thing I am very sure of when it comes to parenting is striking a balance. As a parent, you should know how involved you should be in your child's life, and it shouldn't be in a way that invades your child's privacy or makes your child feel like, you're too nosy. So I'll share an example. It's a very personal example. What my mom used to do was, and she still does it till date, she asks me how my day was. Just one simple question that she asks me on a daily basis gives me an opportunity to share with her whatever I might have gone through my day, whether it's good or bad. So that really means a lot to me, and it doesn't feel like it's too much or, she's invading my privacy. Positive involvement, ladies and gentlemen, is a critical part of parenting that helps you build your child's strengths and abilities, and also, builds your relationship. More examples of, positive involvement can be encouraging your child for good behavior, and, arranging and participating in family activities of mutual interest, whether it's board games or sports, or just, just taking a walk in the garden. It can be literally anything. Another thing I feel like, where it is very important to address when it comes to, positive involvement, is taking active part in your child's school activities, or, staying involved with whatever activities or clubs they are a part of in their school. Because this is something which my parents do till date, even though I am a college student, but I'd like to make sure that my parents know what exactly I'm up to in college life, and they can be a part of my activities as much as I am, so that, it really feels nice, and that is how they become my best friend more than just a parent. And I think it's a very, very beautiful thing, thank God. So that is something that you can try as well, right? Lastly, one more thing I like to talk about, which is very, very important, is your child's mental health. Now, being a staunch proponent of mental health and trying to advocate and normalize talking about it is something that I really, really stand for. See, mental health was something that was not really considered that important, say, 10 years ago, but now it holds a lot of value. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is very, very important to remember that many disorders like anxiety, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and depression do occur during childhood. In fact, many adults who seek treatment reflect back on how these disorders affected their childhood and wish that they had received help sooner. In general, if a child's behavior persists for a week longer, or it causes distress to the child or even the child's family, and interferes with the normal functioning of the child at school, at home, or with friends, then consider seeking help. If a child's behavior is unsafe, or, if a child talks about wanting to hurt himself or someone else, then you have to seek help immediately. I think it is super important to normalize seeking help and not attaching a stigma towards it, because we all are human beings and we are not, professional at everything. Of course, as a parent, you can try to talk to your child and try to serve as a therapist, but that can happen only to an extent. You cannot, as a parent, provide any professional help to your child, even if you want to. And I feel like if the situation still isn't under control, as a parent, we should normalize, of course, you should normalize seeking help and, seeing a therapist for your child. There might be various signs which might show you that your child's mental health is at stake. For example, he or she feels, angry or irritated most of the time, or, when the children tend to lose interest in things that they used to love to do earlier, or when they have low energy most of the time, or when they sleep too much or they sleep too little, when they're eating too much or too little. These are the signs when you know you have to seek help for your child, right? Lastly, I think we need to understand that, it's not only children who grow. I think parents parents also, are growing while parenting, because it's always, a learning journey for all of us. And I feel like the relationship and bond of a child and a parent is very, very beautiful, and it can never be, uh, put or defined into words, because whatever I say about the beauty of the relationship which a parent and a child shares, it'll never be enough. And, as they say, you don't lose yourself in parenthood. Instead, you find yourself. And nurturing a child never happens in a rush. You need to take your time. You need to be as flexible as possible. And of course, it goes without saying, you will, as a parent, provide unconditional love and support to your child. And at the end of the day, I think this is what matters the most. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your views on the topic. Surely parents and children would now be more informed about how they can possibly change and manage the same. Our third speaker for the evening is Miss Srishti Asthana. Miss Srishti is a psychologist and a mental health advocate. She has a rich experience in convicted transformational workshops and training programs in some of the leading organizations like Tata Power, NTPC, and SPCL. She has an active presence on social media, which she creates awareness on mental health issues. Now, I would like to request ma'am to please enlighten our audience.
All right. Thank you so much for that warm welcome and the great introduction. And I welcome all participants. And I believe there is some issue. My video is not visible, I think. But okay, I'm going to continue. So, parenting is actually one of the most favorite topics that I like to discuss. It is something I talk about extensively because if we look back, we are all adults and we are all revisiting our childhoods to heal our own issues and our own difficulties and our own challenges. So, as a mental health practitioner, as a psychologist, as a trainer, as someone who speaks with a lot of people, from all walks of lives, I have seen that this is an issue that the current generation is really struggling with, as we're witnessing a shift from a family system that was, it used to be a joint family system. Now it is a nuclear family system. So we're also witnessing many things. Like now here, I believe a lot of parents must be watching who are from all walks of life, who are from different, whose children are from different age groups. Some of you might be new parents who have like a toddler. Some of you might be parents of teenagers, and with that there are diverse ranges of issues that can possibly occur. In with the younger age group, we are seeing delayed developmental milestones. For example, their development that should happen at the right pace, it's not happening. Why is that so? Because we're not able to provide the amount of stimulus a child requires for the right kind of emotional, mental and physical development. Earlier, because there was a joint family system, because there was not just parents, there was an entire team that was involved in growing and raising a child. The child had more exposure. The child had a lot of physical, emotional and mental inputs that was going into their development, that was going into their growth. And it was just it was easier to do the parenting in a joint family system rather than a nuclear family system. But now with evolving times, when it is seen that the nuclear family system is coming about and it is being established, it will take some time and some generations to completely adapt to it. But with what we have, we need to learn, we need to adapt, and we really need to adjust to the new ways of things and do our best. So there are three topics that I have wanted to discuss with you all today. I will start from the last topic. So as my esteemed colleagues have already given you a lot of insight, a lot of information that is central and vital and very important to this subject, I'll start with having a healthy parenting style. Now in psychology, there are four parenting styles that we see. Sir was mentioning to an authoritative parenting style. So there are basically four types of parenting styles that are seen in people. Usually it's a mixed approach, but then we see authoritarian parenting, which is basically where the amount of emotional affection you provide to the child, it might be a little less, and your expectations of the child are very high. So you want your child to excel at sports, academics, you want them to take 10 different classes, and the amount of time you're spending with the child, the amount of efforts and attention you're investing, it might be less. Of course it might be due to your circumstances, or it might go back to the fact that your own parents were not very you know accepting and expressive of their own love towards you, and that kind of impacts your own parenting style. So that is one parenting style that is not seen as ideal. We then have parenting style. So permissive style is basically where you see the parents saying yes to all of the child's demands. So uh, mom, dad, get me a toy car today. Okay, I got it for you. And after 3 days, the child is demanding for, let's say, Hot Wheels, or a new video game, or the latest Xbox, and you're saying yes. And you're saying yes to each and everything the child asks for you. And that is also a problematic pattern. Then you see, the children who come out of a permissive household, they have a very difficult time in controlling their actions and behavior in the future. When they grow up and they become adult, you see a lot of conduct related issues, you see a lot of difficult challenges. And these are the symptoms of the different kind of parenting styles, the good and the bad, you see at a young age, and then it takes a toll on the personality of the child in the longer run. Then we see a neglectful parenting style. Neglectful is where you're not attentive to the child's needs. This may be the case where both the parents are unavailable emotionally and mentally. Maybe they're just invested financially, but not there or that much. Or maybe they live in a different place and the grandparents are responsible for the upbringing, etc. I'm not saying, I'm not blaming you. Your situations might be different, and it might be it's specific to every individual, and everyone is sort of everyone has different circumstances. Some might have it easier, some might have it more difficult. So there's no judgment on anyone and what kind of an approach they are taking. But then these are the patterns that we see in parenting. The most important and the best approach to parenting is an authoritative approach. My colleague said that you have to be a friend of your child. You need to be a friend of your child, but you need to be an authority figure in your child's life. You need to be that space where the child feels that they are safe, they can come back to you, they can communicate to you, etc. And she had put it across very beautifully, and I think she also shared some of her own experiences, so that was pretty excellent. So an authoritative parent is the one who is very emotionally invested, very attentive to the child's needs, who is very loving, who gives a lot to the child, but has some rules and regulations so that the child does not develop any personality issues or any difficulties, and the child is able to adapt in each and every situation. A child that comes from a household where there has been authoritarian parents, permissive parents, or neglectful parents will eventually face a lot of adjustment issues, or they will face adjustment issues not just as an adult, but maybe even when they go to school or in college, they will face a lot of these challenges because there might be some personality related difficulties that we might witness. So that is, always focus on having an authoritative parenting style that uh, you are appreciated, you're loved, you have all my attention, you have all my affection, you have my unconditional love. But then adding that but does not mean you're showing a conditional love. It means that there are certain regulations that we have to follow, because you're rearing the future members of the society. So you need to raise and nurture the right kind of qualities in the child, and it becomes very, very essential. Give them a lot of love and affection, but then also establish the right kind of rules and regulations for the optimum development, so that they don't have any difficulties in abiding by the laws or abiding by any environments in the future. So that was my bit on having a healthy parenting style. Now we come to the parental interdynamics as a basis for the child's development. So the parents and their relationship, you need to understand that your child is way more wiser than you might anticipate, no matter what their age group is. They're constantly observing you, they're watching you, they're seeing you be however you are, and they are processing it, thinking about it, and that becomes the basis, that becomes the lens through which they are seeing their lives. They're seeing they see other situations through everything they've been through with you, and they are also observing how you behave in different circumstances. What do you do, and is the quality of the marriage or the partnership good, or is it poor? Are you able to communicate to each other in a healthy way? Are you not communicating at all, or do you tend to fight in front of your child, etc.? So these are again, everyone is in a different situation. There's absolutely no judgment on my part, but as a parent, it is your responsibility to show to the child that you both are a team, you both are on the same page. For example, in the previous topic I had mentioned about the authoritative parenting and certain rules and regulations you have to set for your child. So when you're setting these rules and regulations, you need both parents need to be on the same page. Both parents need to agree. You do not want to have a disagreement in front of the child about what the child is allowed to do, what the child is not allowed to do. So, like for example, if one parent, sir had also mentioned this. So if one parent is very permissive and the other parent is very authoritative, like one parent focuses on rules and regulation and is emotionally invested, and the other parent is either absent or is extremely permissive. Let's just say one parent says that, okay, you're not allowed to have chocolate cake each day, and the other parent is buying chocolate cake each day for the child. That is going to create a problem and a confusion in the child's psyche, and the child might develop more love for one parent, while the other parent actually wants what's better for the child in the bigger scheme of things. So you might want to have a healthy discussion with your partner about how to rear and raise the child before the child actually grows up confused, grows up having a bias towards one parent over the other, and the relationship between the parents and the children really suffers when both parents are not on the same page. Other than that, one thing that is most important is for conflict resolution. When you have a fight, when you disagree, when your relationship is going through a difficult period of life, because relationships are not always perfect, of course. There are good days in a marriage, and then or a partnership, then there are bad days in the partnership. On the more bad days, on the days that are not very favorable, it's essential to resolve conflicts in a healthy way, not fight in front of the child, not have an anger outburst on the partner. And let's say you do fail someday, you end up taking your frustration out on your partner, or you end up having an outburst in front of the child. It's okay, it happens, you're a human. But you need to admit to the child that you made a mistake, and you need to uh, rectify it in front of the child, so that the child receives the right message about what is acceptable behavior, what is unacceptable behavior, what is right and what is wrong. So your marriage or your partnership might also become an example or the basis on which the child eventually finds their own partner, or eventually when they grow up and become an adults, how well they're adjusting in their own marriages, in their own partnerships. It really matters what kind of a interdynamic you display to the child. So yes, so try the best, and try to be a great team for your child's optimum emotional development. Take out make those rules, make those make the perfect um, space for the partners, and as well as for the child. Balance it out and do what is good for. I am sure that each parent tries in the best of their capacity to be good enough for their child, but to be conscious and to take responsibility even more, to see what kind of behavior you're doing in front of your child. It is very important to be mindful and to be aware about what messages your behaviors, your mannerisms are portraying to the child. And it another thing is, the parental personalities really will have an influence on how the child grows up to be. So be wise, mindful, aware about your own personality. The last point here is building an emotionally safe home environment. So if you look back upon your own history, if you look back upon your own life, you will notice that there was the parents who provided you with a healthy and safe emotional space. If your parent did not, if you shared some deep personal information, if one parent got angry on you or judged you for it, you never went back and you tried to find friends outside, or tried to find a family outside the household to be able to be yourself, right? So that is pretty problematic. And your child should feel very emotionally safe, and they should feel like they can come home and be their true selves. They can be who they want to be. Like here comes in a factor about who you want your child to become and who your child really is. Like for example, um if your child wants to learn the drums and you feel that the violin is a better instrument, so expecting your child to learn the violin can be actually very and then pushing the child to abide by your rules and standards and according to your preferences is pretty problematic. Nurture your child's inner talents, inner potentials, inner whatever the child really wants. You need to focus on that and give them the healthy space to be who they are, right? Otherwise it is pretty problematic. um, there should be absolutely no judgment and criticism on your part of who they are. Let them be their true selves. Show them that it is appreciated, because if you don't do that out in the real world, it will give them a message that they're not allowed to be their true selves. They might land up with friendships, with relationships that are not satisfying, that make them feel like they cannot really be who they really are. Their true self is not appreciated, and you do not want that to happen eventually. And the most important part of building an emotionally safe household is to work through your own issues. We are all human beings. We've all been through difficult situations and circumstances, and we all have our own emotional issues. So, for example, if you're facing anything which will make you irritable, which will make you angrier, which will make you have a lot of guilt, etc., you really want to heal those issues. You really want to seek a therapist. You really want to go for family therapy, etc., so that you can be the best parent and you can be the best version of yourself for your child's growth and development. So yes, definitely, as my colleague said, it's completely normal to seek help. It's normal to seek therapy. It's normal to see a psychologist, and not only for your child but for yourself also, so that you can be your best version for the child and their upbringing. So that's all I had to say. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your knowledge. Our audience is delighted to have been shared the information about the topic. Now, we would like to share our app launch, MentorMitr. The app is available on Play Store. You all can download the app only on Android for now. The iOS version will be available very soon. The download is free of cost. The app is available in India, Philippines, China, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Italy, Malaysia, Nepal, Russia, Spain, and Thailand. It will be launched in other countries soon. Kindly download our app and get help in your career. If you have any queries about the app, please feel free to contact us or drop a mail at contact@mentormitri.com or connect@mentormitri.com. Now we would like to proceed to the Q&A session by our audience. Our first question for the evening is by Percy Manaloto. As a parent, how can we bring out the best in our child? What parental style is the best amongst teenagers? Mr. Sanjay, can you please shed some light onto this?
Uh, to get the best out of your children, the first thing that you need to do is invest time in finding out what they are good at or what their aspirations are. And only then you will be able to ensure that you can support them in achieving what they are truly made out to achieve. So to their potential, if you want them to uh, reach the heights that they can, you'll have to first understand their aspirations, what they are good at. I'll give you an example. As parents, we all want our children to do something or the other. Like Shrishti said, you want them to play the violin, but they want to play the drums. What should you do in a situation like this? So in my case, one of my child did not like anything that was coming up his way, right? So we made him just try out various things that he wanted to try out so that he could make out what he enjoys doing and be flexible around it. But also, one other thing which we have to also remember is that all of this is good. You have to be friends with your children, but you also have to be the parent. And there are times when you don't have a choice but to be a parent and guide them through, because they don't know any better many a times. So there you can play a supportive role to help them achieve what they are truly good at. So that will be my advice.
Thank you so much, sir. That was indeed very helpful. Our next question is by Nisreen. How to make our children believe in themselves? Miss Maheen, can you please shed some light onto this?
Yeah, sure. So I think if you want your child to believe in themselves, it's very important that you as a parent should believe in your child. So just to, give you an example, if, you want your child to be good at something, until and unless you know that your child would be able to, pull that off as a hobby or as an interest, it's not going to happen. Because I think there are times when the youth has when the youth went through a major self-esteem issues. I personally went through that a lot of times, and that's when I needed my parents to say that they are proud of me and I'm doing great so far, and I will continue to ace whatever I do. So until and unless you get that external validation from your parent, I think that is what really motivates a child to perform better. Because personally what I do is whatever I do, whatever task I take up, be it a internship or a competition or anything, even this webinar, to say the least. I think I want my parents to know that they believe in the fact that I am going to pull this off, and I will do a great job at it. Because like I said, sometimes children really need to be, they want the need to feel appreciated, and for that sometimes what really works out is getting an external source of validation. So that has personally really helped me, because if I know that my parents don't think I'm really going to pull it off, or I'll be any good at this, I know I won't be able to do it. Because sometimes as a child, all you need is someone to believe in you, and if that doesn't happen, you won't be able to believe in yourself. So this is something which has personally worked out for me. So I think, again, like I said, I am not a parent, so I really cannot understand the struggles of a parent per se. But like I said, talking about it from a child's perspective, whatever I take up, I just want to make sure that my parents know that I'm doing this, and they know, like I said, I will be able to manage it. And I think that is something that has really really worked out for me, because as a child, I still call myself a child. I know that at the end of the day, whatever I'm doing, I want my parents to be proud of me. So yeah, that's going to be my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your wonderful advice, Miss Maheen. Our next question is by Jennifer Francisco. How to help parents who didn't have a good childhood and try imposing their own parenting style with their kids, which is unhealthy, like physical punishment as a form of discipline. Miss Rishti, can you please share some insights?
Yes, I would. I'm so glad that I got this question. And I think I had referred to this in my presentation that one has to heal themselves and their issues in order to be the best parent that they can be. So, seeking therapy for yourself, forgiving your parents, because I'm sure it's a line, it's a lineage. They probably observe their parent having some sort of a faulty parenting style, and then they try to tone it down, but some bit of it they've picked up unconsciously and the pattern carries on. So it becomes very problematic, and it is really essential for parents to heal their issues. Like, for example, if they were disciplined very harshly and now they have some issues, you know um, like, for example, they might be using, maybe they were severely punished as a child. So now they think that I'm never going to be my parent, I'm never going to punish my children very severely. But then they are mildly punishing them. Maybe they're not using physical means of discipline, but then emotionally they're very stern, or they're very very hard with their discipline, etc. So that kind of balance, once you are a balanced personality in yourself, that's when you can be a balanced parent. And it is extremely essential to forgive your own parents, to acknowledge that you have certain issues, acknowledge that you had a difficult time growing up, and work with your own inner child, make your own inner child, or that version of yourself that was vulnerable as a child, ensuring to that part of yourself that you're emotionally safe. And I think therapy is the best way of dealing with it. Apart from that, you can definitely forgive your own parents and sort of acknowledge and accept that, okay, I had a difficult past, but now as a human being, I've been given the capacity to heal out of it, to work on myself and ensure that the pattern does not continue. Like, if I make a mistake in parenting with my child will make a parenting mistake with their children. So it ends with you, and you need to take the responsibility for that.
Thank you so much for your advice, Miss Rishti. Our next question is by Rafi Kamil. How can you smoothly transition from one parenting style to another when they're used to giving them what you want, whatever they want, but you feel they need discipline? How can you change that? Mr. Sanjay, can you please give your advice?
Sure. Like I said, when you've been giving in to your child for a very long period of time, whatever they ask, you give it to them, and you want to now change that equation. It's not going to be easy, definitely. So you'll have to work on it. You'll have to get into the mode of what I mentioned, an adult to adult conversation. So with my children, whenever they ask for something, we do a conversation sometimes about the utility of that thing. And is it essential for us, or are there other things which are more important? And when you start doing those conversations with your children over a period of time, you'll find that they are much smarter than what you are. And they'll surprise you many a times by coming up with arguments around why they should not be asking for something themselves. So please understand, your children are today more exposed in terms of information availability than what you are. And they know a lot more than what you know as, a kid that you were at their age. So the world is very, very different from how we've experienced it. So the effort that we just need to put in to align with their way of thinking, and also to do conversations where we give them, sound advice as an advisor, as a friend. They appreciate it over a long period of when you do this over a long period of time. So get into that habit. It will take time. It wouldn't happen immediately, but over a period of time, you'll be able to change yourself as well as the way your children play you. Both of them, your relationship with them will change significantly if you follow a consistent approach going forward.
Thank you so much for those wonderful words, Mr. Sanjay. Our next question is by Dilkash Zehra. How important is it to visit a therapist? How effective will it be, as many parents don't want to? Miss Mahin, can you please share your insights?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I think mental health was something that was really, not considered that important. 10 to 15 years ago, that was something I previously mentioned. But, when you consider today's scenario, I think it's very important, because at some point we all did want help. But the problem is we did not really seek help because of the stigma attached to it. So, firstly, what we need to do on an individual level, we need to normalize it. Because, like I said, I think every change begins from us, right? We are the youth, we are the members of the society, so we need to bring and start the change amongst ourselves. We need to remove the stigma which is attached towards it, because we all are humans, and I feel like we all have really gone through a lot. And when I talk about what every individual have gone through amidst the pandemic, it was really on a crazy level. And I think everyone at one point might have had a breakdown because of what was going around. So that was the point, that's the point when you need to seek help. And I feel like as a parent, not only children need help, but since parenting really involves a lot of struggle, I think when parents feel like they need some sort of a help, they should also approach a psychologist, because believe me, it does make you feel a lot better. Because talking about it is always the solution. And like I said, communication is the key. As much as you suppress your feelings, it won't really do any good, and suppression will of course lead to an outburst later. So it's better that if you feel like you're you're being you're not okay, and if you can of course see signs that make you realize that your mental health is really unstable, it's absolutely okay to seek help. And like I said, this is something that really should start amongst ourselves. If we don't normalize it, if we still keep attaching a stigma towards it, no one is going to normalize it either, because the change needs to start within us. So I think it's absolutely okay. You should know when you need help or your child needs help, and you should of course go to a psychologist or a mental health professional and talk about it. Because the person, because he or she might be is an expert in the field, he or she will try to talk about it in a very different perspective. You'll get to know a lot of things which you might have not acknowledged because of because of what you were going through. So it's absolutely okay, because I think we're all really trying to work really hard in such in such hard times, and we have already gone through a lot because of the pandemic in 2020, and I personally have gone through a lot. So I think it's absolutely okay. Talk about it, communicate, express how you feel. And believe me, if you do that and if you remove the stigma, you're going to feel a lot better at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insights, Miss Mahin. Our next question is by Dulcie Faith Faustino. How do you retain your parenting strategy or style when people around the children, like their grandparents, act the opposite way you want your child to behave? Miss Srishti, can you please share your advice?
Okay, sure. So in this case, it can become very tricky because, as I had mentioned, the children are constantly observing their environment. They're picking up different things from the environment. In this case, it becomes absolutely essential, A, for you and your partner to come on the same page about the parenting strategies. B, draw a boundary with the grandparents that, this is healthy, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable, and ultimately I am responsible for my child's upbringing. So having a clear dialogue even with the grandparents, because if you're trying to discipline your child and if the grandparents are constantly sort of breaking the rules that you've set, it does not give the perfect message to the child. Having grandparents is actually an excellent thing for the child's psychological development, because it just gives extra emotional support and an extra adult space to be themselves. But at the same time, I think the two partners should make certain rules for the grandparents as well. And it might be a difficult conversation or a difficult position to be in, for sure, but uh, having that approach becomes extremely essential. And having a discussion with the child as well, that you're allowed to see, if you have the right rapport with your child will listen to you, and the child will also learn how to say no. Or, like, for example, if you're trying to reduce the sugar intake of the child, and you're like, not more than one toffee a day, and the grandparent is buying the child a chocolate, so the child, if the set of rules and regulations and the bond with the parents is such that when it's ideal, then the child will take the chocolate, keep it, and eat one piece by one piece each day. But then if the parental bond is missing in the space, then the child might take the entire chocolate, eat it, ask for more chocolates from the grandparents. So this is just a hypothetical example which has been extremely simplified, but we see different versions of this kind of a scenario going on in different households. So strengthen your bond with the child, strengthen and also strengthen your boundaries as to how much the grandparents are allowed into the parenting space and how much they're not. So yeah, that's my input on this.
Thank you so much for sharing your advice, Ms. Rishti. I would like to thank all our speakers as well as the audience for giving us your valuable time and support. Thank you for attending and engaging in today's session with us. Lastly, I would like to repeat the steps to avail the e-certificate. You are required to attend the full webinar. Once you see the thank you displayed on the screen, there will appear a link to the Google attendance form in the chat box. Click to mark your attendance and get the feedback form emailed. Fill the questionnaire that you receive on your mail for the details. Follow our page on Instagram and Facebook. If the above stated steps are followed, an e-certificate will be automatically mailed to you. You can contact us through any of the above mentioned platforms with your questions, feedback, and suggestions. Hope to see you all next Sunday.